So welcome everybody to the Huntington Theatre Group's production of Poisoned in the Garden. Sit back and look for all the clues and all the red herrings.
Right this way, folks. Come in, come on in. Right this way. Come in.
Keep moving. Keep moving.
Let me introduce myself. I am Inspector Salt. This is my colleague, Detective Sergeant Pepper. You know why we brought you down here today.
No, I don't.
This is outrageous. You're treating us like suspects.
All we need to do is to ask you a few questions.
Questions about my grandma?
Maybe we should call a lawyer.
Calm down, calm down. There is no need for lawyers.
Famous last words.
I don't need a lawyer because I never had anything to do with it.
It's just so sad.
I'm still in shock. I know. I can't believe it.
Oh, did you give her the meds?
Did you?
Oh, she loved our little community theater. Look, I'm the mayor of this town, and I want to know what happened.
Mayor, we are trying to tell you, if everyone would just calm down and listen.
Okay. Here's what we know. This morning at 11:30 a.m., Edna Ellis was found dead in her garden.
We know that. It's your job to figure it out. Who did it?
Honey Bunch, I think you mean who done it?
Whatever.
Now, that's our job, ma'am, and we will crack this case. But right now, we need to look at the facts.
Fact number one, Edna was almost 100 years old, and she depended on her friends and family for help.
Well, that's what family does.
Number two, we know that when her driver came to pick her up today, she was dead in the garden.
We were supposed to go to the beach for a weekly picnic.
Fact number three, Edna was seated in a chair, wrapped in a shawl. Her hair and makeup looked perfect.
Why, thank you.
Number four, on the table was her breakfast.
Eggs, toast, tea, just like always.
There were freshly cut flowers.
Fertilizer always makes them feel so much more fragrant.
There was also a bottle of medication.
She needed it to survive.
There was an envelope.
She wanted me to bring her some papers.
And a garden book.
We shared a fence and a lot of gardening.
There was a travel brochure.
Oh, she won't be traveling anywhere anymore.
And fact number five, we know that Edna was poisoned.
What? Oh my
Don't,
goodness.
folks, don't worry. We will get to the bottom of it. Right now, we need all of you to go into the other room, and then we will call you back one at a time and talk to you privately. So, this way, folks, this way.
Keep moving, folks, keep moving. Got a trial coming up here.
Sergeant Pepper, whom should we call from?
Well, I believe it's best to start with the family.
Good idea. I will bring in Edna's daughter, Clarice. Clarice, step in, please. Clarice, have a seat. Now, Clarice, let me begin by saying we are sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Now, Clarice, let's just jump right in. Now, where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30 a.m.?
I was working.
Well, what do you do?
I am the CEO of Magic Makeup.
Magic makeup?
Yes, Magic Makeup. Only the most famous beauty company in the country.
I think I've heard of it. It's been on the news lately, right?
Yes, it's this little lawsuit. We're dealing with it, not an issue.
Lawsuit?
It's nothing really. Some people have had an allergic reaction to some of our products.
I've heard this lawsuit is pretty big. If you lose your company, what will you do for money?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you our makeup is perfectly safe. Would I use it on my own family if I thought otherwise?
Now, Clarice, speaking of family, how often did you see your mother?
I'm very busy, detective, especially with this lawsuit.
Clarice, would you please tell me the last time you saw your mother?
Well, I went by this morning. As a matter of fact, it was early, maybe 9 o'clock. Mother was out in her garden admiring her flowers. She was looking a little bit peaked, so I fixed her makeup. She might be nearly 100, but a girl always likes to look beautiful. I couldn't stay long because I had an important meeting, so I said goodbye and headed out.
Very interesting.
This is very interesting.
Clarice, don't leave the station. We may need to talk to you again.
Sure.
Who's next, Sergeant Pepper?
I think it's a good idea to call in Mason, the son-in-law.
Mason, come in, please. Have a seat, Mason.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, Mason, we know that you are grieving the passing of your mother-in-law. You have our sympathy.
Well, thank you very much. Edna was a wonderful mother-in-law.
Now, Mason, could you tell me where you were this morning between 9 and 11:30 a.m.?
Well, I came by to see Edna around 9:15, and then I went to play golf.
Well, what do you do for a living?
I'm a lawyer. Well, I was a lawyer.
Was?
I was recently terminated.
You were fired?
That's another way of putting it.
And your wife, her company is on the rocks right now, isn't it?
Oh, that lawsuit. That's frivolous. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that makeup, and that will go away. I'm not worried about that at all.
Now, tell me, Mason, how often did you see your mother-in-law?
Well, I'm a very busy person.
I thought you were fired.
I play golf.
Mason, tell me about the last time you saw her.
Oh, okay. Well, it was a beautiful morning. The sun was out. It was a great day for golf. I came by, and it was looking quite lovely. She had asked me to change her will, and I was coming by to get her signature for it. And I gave her the will. She wanted to look it over. I really wanted to get her to sign it, but I couldn't wait. So I put the will on the table and said goodbye.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Now, Mason, thank you, but don't leave the station. We may have more questions for you.
Okay, I'm a very busy person.
But we understand that, but we still may have more questions.
Okay.
Who's next?
I think it'd be a good idea to call in Emily, the granddaughter.
Emily, yes. Emily, come on in. Have a seat, Emily. Now, Emily, you have all our sympathy.
Thank you. I love my grandma. She was the best.
Emily, where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30 a.m.?
Running. Do you
Running?
Mind? Yes. Do you mind if I record this for my followers?
Okay with us.
Sure.
I was running.
Well, are you always so glued to your phone?
Yes, I'm an influencer.
Influencer?
Yeah, people follow me.
People follow you?
Not like stalking, they follow my social.
Emily, do you have a job or a career?
I'm an influencer.
Well, Emily, what would you do with life if this influencer thing doesn't work out?
I don't know.
Well, what will you do for money?
Well, it's in Grandma's will that I have a trust fund.
Oh, so Edna had to die before you could get any money.
I guess so.
Tell me, Emily, how often did you see your grandmother?
Not as often as I'd liked, but I loved her.
Tell me about the last time you saw her.
Well, it was this morning, as a matter of fact. It was this morning, as a matter of fact. I was out for a run, and I thought I'd swing by. Grandma was sitting in her garden at her table reviewing some papers. So I thought I'd go over and say hello. I saw it was her last will and testament, so I didn't want to ask her about my trust fund because that would be rude. So I took a selfie, said goodbye, and headed out.
Very interesting.
Pretty interesting.
Thank you, Emily, but don't leave the station. We may have more questions.
Okay.
Who's that, Sergeant Pepper?
Let's bring in the driver, James.
Oh, James, the driver. James, come in, please. Have a seat, James.
Thank you.
James, you were Edna's driver, correct?
Yes, I've been her driver for a lot of years, and my life just won't be the same now.
James, where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30 a.m.?
At the hardware store.
The hardware store?
Yeah, the hardware store. I went to get a new blanket. Edna didn't like the one that we were taking to the beach. Hello?
When you say Edna didn't like the blanket you were taking to the beach doesn't seem like the easiest place for an old woman.
Well, that's true, but it's the place that we've always gone to. That's sort of our special place. We always felt so calm and serene there, away from all of the nagging and money grabbing.
Your special place, how often and for how long have you and Edna been going there?
Oh, I'd say 25 years.
And when did Edna's husband die?
About 10 years ago.
So, you and Edna were going to the beach for picnics alone before Edna's husband died.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Edna and I had been in love for a long time, long before that husband came along. You know, we were planning to grow old together, but life just doesn't go that way, does it? And you know, she only married him for his money. And after that, I was just in the background, always.
Interesting. You could say childhood sweethearts?
Yeah, you could say that.
And you stayed close. Tell me, how often did you see Edna?
Usually once a week, on Fridays, but it could vary depending on how she was feeling. You know, she had a lot of ailments. She was pretty good until a few months ago, but she'd been struggling, and it really broke my heart to see her in so much pain.
James, could you please tell me about the last time you saw her?
Well, it was this morning, as a matter of fact. You know, I came by about 9:45, and she was standing in the garden, looking as lovely as ever. You know, she wasn't just my employer, she was my Edna. So I showed her the blanket, a new blanket that to take to the beach, and she didn't like it at all. She said it was too scratchy. You know, she was a very hard one to please. I tried to be patient, but it did get to me. Nobody cared about her the way I did. She just shooed me away. So I went off to get a better blanket.
But I thought you were the one who found Edna.
Well, I was. When I bought the blanket, I brought it back to show her, and that's when I found her. Dead.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Thank you, James, but don't leave the station. We may have some more questions. Who's next, Sergeant?
Let's bring in the cook, Julia.
Julia, come in, please. Julia, have a seat. Now, you were Edna's cook, is that right, Julia?
I've been cooking for Edna for years. I'm not sure what I'll do now.
Where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30, Julia?
At the grocery store.
The grocery store?
Yes, the grocery store. I do all Edna's shopping, and I make all her meals.
What was the last meal you cooked for Edna?
Well, last night I cooked her some tomato soup.
Soup?
Yes, soup. She's old, you know. She eats lots of soup, not to mention we have amazing tomatoes growing in the garden.
Do you work a lot with the gardener?
Of course, she has a green thumb. Fruits, vegetables, herbs. We talk about opening a restaurant someday. It could be just fine.
Interesting. How is it, and how was it working for Edna?
Well, if I'm being honest, it was terrible. She was rude to me and didn't like my cooking.
Well, are you a good cook?
Yes, I'm a great cook. That's why I want to open a restaurant.
Now tell me, how often did you see Edna?
Every day, 7 days a week. I came early in the morning and again every evening.
Now, Julie, please tell me about the last time you saw Edna.
Well, I went by this morning, as a matter of fact. It was early. Edna was standing in the garden looking a bit confused. I led her over to the table and helped her sit down. I placed her breakfast there, 3 scrambled eggs, toast, and tea. She looked at it, then looked at me with disgust. I try to be patient because she's an old lady, but it gets to me. I had to get to the grocery store, so I said goodbye and headed out.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Julia, don't leave the station. We may need to talk to you again.
Okay.
Should we call in Rose the gardener?
I think that's a good idea.
Rose, come on in. Have a seat, Rose.
Thank you.
Now, you are Edna's gardener, correct?
That's right.
How long were you working for her?
I've only worked for Edna for a very short time, but her garden is
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Could you be a little louder?
I'll try. Is it better?
It's
A little bit
Yeah.
better? Better? Best? Edna loves her flowers to be very healthy, so I sprinkle fertilizer all over the garden.
Well, did you go to the garden store?
Yes, I went to the garden store this morning.
You were trying to pick up some supplies there?
Yes, I needed some supplies.
Like what?
Well, like potting soil, fertilizer, pesticides.
Fertilizer?
Yes, fertilizer.
And-
Edna likes her flowers to be really healthy.
Could I ask this,
And pesticide?
this lovely lady a question?
Well, I understand.
Where were you between 9 and 11:30 this morning?
Well, between 9 and 11:30, as a matter of fact, I did stop by to see her. And it was, let me see, I guess it was probably around 10 o'clock. I had just picked some fresh flowers, and like poppies and roses, but I had put a few exotics with them. So I held them to her nose for her to smell, and then I walked her over to her table, and I put flowers in the vase.
Can I ask you another question before you go on?
Yes, certainly.
Does Edna like fruits and vegetables?
No, she much prefers the flowers. She doesn't really get it. She eats them, but she doesn't really like them. She much prefers flowers.
I don't have any other questions, Sergeant Pepper, do you?
Would you please tell me about the last time you saw her?
Yes. I went by this morning. It was early. Edna was standing in the garden, and I had just picked some fresh flowers. She loves roses and poppies, but as I said, I threw in some exotics as well. I held them to her nose so she could smell them, but she wasn't interested. So I put flowers in a vase, or vase, and then I helped her to sit down. Yeah, let me help you. Right here, right here. But I really had to get to the garden store. So I said goodbye, and I headed out.
Well, that is very interesting.
That was most interesting.
Thank you, Rose, but don't leave the station because we may have some more questions.
I have to.
Thank you. Who's next?
Let's bring in Mr. Richard, the hairdresser.
Ah, Mr. Richard, come on in. Have a seat, Mr. Richard. Now, you were Edna's hairstylist, correct?
I've been doing Edna's hair for years. I don't know what I'll do with my Wednesday afternoons now.
Mr. Richard, where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30?
At my salon.
Your salon?
Yes, I had to swing by to get a few supplies.
Okay, now tell me, when was the last time you did her hair?
As a matter of fact, it was this morning. It was time for a cut and color. She loves that perfect shade of old lady blue. I have a special formula.
Special formula?
Yes, I mix a lot of chemicals to get the hair dyed just right.
So, this morning, you used a chemical dye on Edna's hair?
Yes. And if I'm being honest, she never appreciated my time and talent. In all those years, she never tipped me once.
Now, Mr. Richard, could you please tell me about the last time you saw her?
Well, as I mentioned, it was morning, maybe around 10:15. It was a beautiful day, so we did her hair outside. I did a little cut, a little color, a little styling, and she was good to go. I said goodbye and headed out.
Well, that's very interesting.
It is interesting.
Well, thank you, Mr. Richard, but don't leave the station because there may be more questions later. Who's next, Sergeant?
I think it's time to bring in the dog walker, Franklin.
Oh, Frederick. Have a seat, Frederick.
Well, this is indeed a serious situation.
Now, Franklin, where were you?
It's Frederick.
Frederick. You want to be Frederick? You're Frederick. I don't know why. I thought Mr. Frederick was the address. Where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30 a.m.?
I think you skipped a bunch of lines.
I can repeat this.
No, I was out walking the dog. I'm sorry, I was out walking the dog. Yeah, I know it's a fake.
You were walking the dog. I mean, you do know that the dog isn't real. It's a fake dog. It's a stuffed
I know the
animal.
dog is a fake.
Have you always been a dog walker, Frederick?
No, I used to be president of a bank.
President of a bank? Impressive.
Yeah. Well, I got into a little trouble.
Trouble?
Yeah, I admit it. I embezzled money from the bank, and then I did my time behind bars. But I'm starting over. I did my time.
So, now you walk dogs.
Yeah, I walk dogs, and actually, I don't like dogs, whether they're real or fake, but Edna paid me well and said she would take care of us. In fact, she was going to leave money in her will for Poppy and me.
Poppy?
Wait, Poppy and me, yeah, Poppy, the dog.
You know, Frederick, you might like the dog better if you held its face up to you. Right at the rear end.
Why, did you want to see it? Hello.
I'm so glad you did that. Tell me now, how often did you see Edna?
Well, I saw her actually every day. I went by 7 days a week. And then I would take the dog out and we go for a walk around. We walked in the morning and we also walked in the evening.
Okay, that's very credible. Now, tell me about the last time you saw her.
Well, I went over to Edna's, it was early this morning, around 10:30. And I handed her the dog the right way. And she took the dog and she cuddled it and caressed it, the little rat dog. Oh, I mean Poppy. And then when she finished, she handed it back. And we went out to take a walk around the neighborhood.
Well, that's very interesting.
Very, very interesting.
Okay?
Really, really, Sergeant Pepper. I've heard everything now. A dog walker who walks a fake dog. I mean, have we gone into some other dimension?
And why is it everybody we see has some kind of a problem? We're so perfect,
I don't know. Well,
No,
who's our next witness?
let's bring in Daisy, the neighbor.
Daisy. Come on in, Daisy. Have a seat, Daisy.
Oh, thank you.
Now, Daisy, you were Edna's next door neighbor, correct?
I was Edna's neighbor for decades now. I wonder who'll be living there now that she's gone. It's important to know who's living next to you, you know.
Daisy, where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30?
At home.
At home?
Yes, at home.
Do you own your house?
Of course I do. I wish I owned hers too.
What exactly do you mean by that? You'd like to own hers too?
Oh, nothing. It's just that I asked her several times if she would sell me the house, and she always declined.
So you like to garden too?
Oh, yes. Edna and I, we're not always neighborly, but we both share a love of gardens. She had some nice flowers, but I had some really exotic plants.
Now, Daisy, could you tell me about the last time you saw Edna?
Well, it was this morning, as a matter of fact. I had seen a lot of people coming and going. The family, the driver, the cook. I had recently found a little book of gardening tips, and I thought Edna could use them. So I handed her the book, and while she was thumbing through it, I put another little flower in her vase. And then I headed home.
Very interesting.
This is interesting.
Yes, well, thank you, Daisy, but don't leave the station. We may have other questions later. Well, who's next?
Let's bring in the doctor, Dr. Quack.
Oh, Dr. Quack. Yes, the doctor with the unfortunate name.
Very unfortunate.
Oh, Dr. Quack. Come in, please. Have a seat, Dr. Quack.
Thank you. I've been Edna's doctor for years now. This is so sad.
Dr. Quack, where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30 a.m.?
At the hospital.
At the hospital?
Yes, at the hospital. I had rounds to do with my other patients.
What were you treating Edna for?
Oh, a variety of ailments. She had heart problems, heart palpitations, high blood pressure, arthritis, chronic stomach problems, ingrown toenails.
Okay, Dr. Quack, okay, we get the picture now.
Tell me, how often did you see Edna?
Every week.
Tell me about the last time you saw her.
The last time I saw Edna, she was standing in the garden, looking old. I listened to her heart. I gave her some medication, and I put the bottles on the table because I had to get back to the hospital.
Very interesting.
This is very interesting.
Well, thank you, Dr. Quack. Don't leave the station, because we may have a few more questions. If you're excused.
Thank you.
Well, who do we have left?
We need to bring in the nurse,
Oh, the nurse, Susie.
Susie.
Susie, come in. Have a seat, Susie. So, Susie, you were Edna's nurse.
I've been tending to Edna for a very long time. She was such a sweet woman.
And Susie, where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30 a.m.?
Running errands.
Running errands?
Yes. A little of this, a little of that.
Were these errands for you or Edna?
A little of both. I did pick up her mail.
What was in the mail today?
Travel brochures.
Travel brochures?
She might have been old, but she loved to travel. Europe, Asia, South America.
Really?
Yep.
Tell me, Susie, how often did you see Edna?
Every day. It was very important for me to give her medication every day. Her daughter told me to.
Your daughter told you?
She's the one who hired me.
Now tell me, Susie, when was the last time you saw Edna?
I saw Edna this morning. She was standing in her garden looking at her flowers. I helped her on with her shawl. I gave her some meds. And had her sit down. Gave her some meds. She seemed fine, so I went on my way.
Well, I would say it's interesting.
Pretty interesting.
Well, thank you, Susie. Don't leave the station. You know, we may have a few more questions. Well, let's see. Who else do we have?
We still have Mrs. Bergman, patron of the theater.
Mrs. Bergman. Mrs. Bergman, come in, please. Have a seat, Mrs. Bergman.
No, thank you.
Would you prefer to stand?
Yes.
Well, you can if you do
Thank
prefer
you.
to stand, but please stand in front of the chair.
Why?
Well, Mrs. Bergman, we're concerned about your safety. You see, under the intensity of our cross-examination, you may become faint. And you might fall, then you could fall backwards into the chair.
What if I fall forward?
I'll catch her.
That would be most unfortunate. So, thank you for complying and standing in front of the chair. Now, let's see.
Edna was a devoted patron of the community theater, devoted.
Sounds like you might miss her greatly. Where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30?
I was at the theater.
The theater?
The theater. I'm the director.
Well, were you planning a fundraiser?
Yes, the theater. We have a big fundraiser tonight.
Fundraiser for what?
To raise money for our next season.
Tell me, how is the theater doing these days?
Well, if I'm being honest, it's not great. Producing high-quality community theater costs money. It costs money to produce, to have royalties, to have costumes, to have props, to have sets, you name it, it costs money. That's why we rely on patrons like Edna.
Mrs. Bergman, Edna donated money to the theater?
Yes, yes, she did, in the past. And I believe she'll be leaving us some money in the future. But recently, she pulled her funding.
Now, Mrs. Bergman, could you tell me about the last time you saw her?
Well, I went by this morning. You sit down. And Edna was sitting at her little table in the garden. And I brought her some chocolates just to be sweet. I know that deep down she loves our community theater. And I wanted to talk to her about donating to the theater. So I began to kneel down, and then I thought, uh-oh, what if I can't get up? So I leaned over, and I told her that about the amazing production of Phantom of the Opera that we have planned for next season. She listened, but she said no. She wouldn't give us any money. I gave her one of the chocolates and I headed back to the theater.
Very interesting.
Can I go?
Well, no, you can't, Mrs. Bergman. Stay in the station because we may have a few more questions.
Okay.
Is the mayor next?
The mayor is next. We call in your Honorable Mayor Chad.
Come in, Mayor Chad. And please have a seat, Mayor.
I'm going to ask you a very direct question to begin with. Where were you this morning between 9 and 11:30 a.m.?
I was walking around.
Walking around?
Yes, it's almost time to vote, and I was reminding people to get out and vote.
To vote? To vote?
To vote. You know, a vote for me is a vote for progress.
Well, Mayor, what do you have planned for the town?
Well, first, I want to get rid of that silly botanical garden with all those crazy flowers and put up some condominiums.
Get rid of the botanical garden? What did Edna think of that?
Well, she wasn't too happy about it. She stopped supporting me and started supporting my competition.
So you're saying that Edna was not a fan?
Oh, she was not a fan.
Can you win without her vote?
Well, probably not. She's got a
lot of influence in this town and with microphones.
Now, your Honorable Mayor Chad, would you tell me about the last time you saw her?
Well, as I was canvassing the neighborhood, I decided to check in on Edna. I wanted to see if she would change her mind and vote for me. I brought her a nice pin, which some of you received this afternoon, but she just refused. I put a pin on her table and left.
Well, very interesting, I think.
Very interesting.
Oh, I'm interesting. That's why you should vote for me. Can I go?
Mayor, you can go, but don't leave the station. We may need to talk to you again later.
Certainly.
This is crazy. I can't believe they're investigating us. I'm her daughter, for heaven's sakes. Why would I poison my own mother?
Why are they wasting our time on this? I could be on the golf course right now. They should be talking to Edna's employees or those other money grubbers from town.
I agree. They all look guilty.
Okay.
And that neighbor, Daisy, she's always trying to buy Grandma's house.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think the family looks very suspicious. They're all so privileged.
I think all they wanted was the money Edna was leaving them when she died.
That's true. You could say that they never came around to visit her. Edna Edna was a burden to me.
They just paid money for people to take care of her.
Yeah, and this dog of hers too.
That dog?
I know that dog is a fake. Come on.
This is taking so long. When can we go home? I need to get to my garden and water it before it gets dark.
I think I've seen some of your plants over the fence. They look very exotic. Where did you get them from?
I don't know about you, but I think her employees were pretty suspicious. I think they're just working for her in order to get the money when she's gone.
What about you, Mayor? Just what about you? Edna had a lot of influence in this town. How will you get elected without her support?
Well, I could just say the same to you about donations.
Where are the detectives?
I don't know. Where are the detectives? Can we go now?
We can leave. Let's go. Let's get out of here.
All right, settle down. We were taking a little break. Now, you know, we called you all here today to solve the mystery of who killed Edna. And as it turns out, every one of you had a motive for killing Edna. Every one of you benefited in some way from Edna's death. Let's start with you, Clarice. Your company is in big financial trouble. If the lawsuit goes against you, you and your husband will lose everything. And your only chance to avoid bankruptcy is the inheritance from your mother.
You think I would murder my own mother? First of all, we are not going to lose the lawsuit. And second, even if we do, Mother agreed to modify her will to protect us against going bankrupt.
Oh yes, we do know that the new will passes the family inheritance into a trust, and it cannot be used to pay a settlement or a judgment in the lawsuit.
That's correct. So I have no interest in having my mother's inheritance early. In fact, the longer she lives, the longer it delays any of her financial assets being involved in that lawsuit.
And I have no further interest in talking to you.
I'd like to address Mason.
What?
Edna recently asked you to modify her will, did she not?
Yes, she did. She was concerned that everyone was just being nice to her to get her money after she died. So she asked me to modify her will and to create trust so that all of her assets went to her family. Financial assets were put into a trust for her daughter and her granddaughter, and the property was put in the trust in my name. Then what happened? Oh, well, all the other requests from her will were eliminated.
What? No.
I'm sorry.
We were counting on that money.
Okay, I'm through with you, dog. I'm with you.
Mason, but since Edna was killed, before she could sign the new will, the old will remains as a legal document.
That's correct. That's correct.
I love your show.
That's good for us. That's good.
Emily, you told us that you are an influencer.
Yes.
How exactly does that work?
Well, people follow my social to get information I provide for them.
Well, Emily, we have checked your website, and it's mostly pictures of you with your grandmother and your father with the next door neighbor Daisy in her yard.
Well, I'm just starting out.
Tell me, how well do you get along with your mother?
Well, I never really saw her very much. She was always working.
How How can you say that, dear? Wasn't I always at all your birthdays?
Emily, it's obvious you have a difficult relationship with your mother, but we will not investigate that today. Thank you.
Thank you. James, how long have you been Edna's driver?
25 years.
You loved Edna, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And yet, she rejected your blanket with disgust. Had friction been building between you two?
There was no friction. Look, Edna had been changing in ways I didn't much care for. She'd gotten very distant recently, and I hated to see her get so old. Is this my time?
Kiss it.
She'd been getting very distant recently, and I hated to see her get so old. And she'd been in a lot of pain, but there was no friction.
You gave Edna a blanket, and she took it, and then immediately gave it back to you. Was there something wrong with that blanket? Was she allergic to something in the fabric? Could that have killed her?
There was nothing wrong with that blanket. It was just too scratchy. I loved it. I would not have killed her no matter how much pain she was in.
Are you finished, Sergeant?
I'm done with this driver. Absolutely.
Now, Julia, you were Edna's cook, and you brought Edna her breakfast and dinner every day. Did you like that job?
Well, it started off really well. But then as Edna got older, she wasn't very nice to me. She complained about the food I brought her, and sometimes didn't even eat it.
Why did you stay?
The only reason I stayed was because she said she left money for me in her will when she died. The gardener and I planned to set up a restaurant after she was gone with the money, inheritance money.
How long have you known the gardener?
All my life. We're sisters. After I got this job, I convinced Edna to hire her.
Ah. So both of you benefited from Edna's death. Did the two of you conspire to poison Edna's food? You know, there were a lot of poisons in your sister's gardening shed.
Never. And I never would think it would do that. I mean, I'd have gotten along with Edna, but I certainly didn't want to kill her. She was old and didn't have long, and we could wait.
All right, no other questions, Julia.
Rose, what kind of flowers did you grow in Edna's garden?
Oh, mostly the typical ones. Tulips, roses, chrysanthemums. Also, am I supposed to stand here? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Mostly the typical ones. Tulips, roses, and chrysanthemums, etc. Some of the flowers that she had were exotics. Edna and her neighbor were always trying to outdo each other and procuring the most exotic, rare tropical plants.
Now, Rose, you said that you use pesticides to control the bugs in Edna's garden. Are any of them fatal if ingested?
I would think probably so. The label says to wear gloves when handling them, and also to keep them away from any food.
Do you keep these pesticides locked when you're not around?
No, but who would want to steal them? I'd happily give some to anyone who asked.
I understand that the cook is your sister, and you two are going to start a restaurant when you leave here. Now that Edna is dead, will you two do that?
Well, I don't know, I'm not sure, but we haven't discussed it in a long time.
Mr. Richard, I am curious about something. If Edna never gave you a tip, why did you keep going back to do her hair week after week?
She told me she's going to leave me money in her will to start my own salon.
Now, Mr. Richard, you referred to your special formula that you used on Edna's hair. Are you sure that special formula was safe and did not have any dangerous side effects?
Well, certainly not. I used it a lot of times before and there never was a problem. Why should there be a problem now?
No further questions, Mr. Richard.
Now, Frederick, it seems very strange to me that you would go from being a bank president to walking a fake dog unless you have some other motive in mind.
I don't know what you mean. What are you implying?
You were fired from your bank for embezzlement. In other words, you were secretly siphoning funds from the bank into your personal account. Is that what you were doing with Edna?
How can I do that? I had no access to her money. And as I told you before, she paid me well, and she said she was leaving money in her estate for Poppy and me.
Well, why would she do that?
Well, she didn't like me much, I knew that, but she liked the dog. In fact, she liked this dog better than her own family or anybody else around. And she knew that if she died, I would take care of Poppy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Daisy, now that Edna is dead, will you buy her house and garden?
Well, I'll try to, but I know that her daughter's company is being sued, so maybe they want to raise money for the lawyers.
You and Edna were always very competitive about your flower garden. How did you find all of those rare flowers that you raised?
I took a trip to Africa a couple of years ago, and I brought back a lot of very exotic plants.
Brought back flowers from Africa. Did you give any of those flowers to Edna?
Yes, I did. She loved how beautiful they were and the way they smelled.
Did you give any flowers to Edna on the morning that she died?
Yes, I did.
All right, no other questions, Daisy.
Dr. Quack, you said that you left new bottles of pills for Edna to take. She took 2 pills from one bottle, and you left the other bottles on the table.
That's correct.
Is it possible that you made a mistake and put the wrong pills in one of the bottles, and that is what killed Edna?
I may be getting old, but I would never make a mistake like that.
How did you know which pills she took when you didn't stay to see which bottles they came from?
Well, I guess I don't know for sure.
The nurse said she also gave her 2 pills. Could Edna have overdosed from too much medicine?
I don't know what the nurse gave her, but I doubt that any 2 pills could have killed her.
Susie, you were Edna's nurse.
Yes, I was.
And as I understand it, every day you gave Edna her pills in the morning.
Yes, I did.
On the morning that Edna died, did you give her pills?
Yes, I did. I gave her 2 pills from a new bottle, poured her some tea, and then left.
Now, you said that when you arrived, Edna was holding another bottle of pills. What happened to that bottle?
Well, I don't know. The doctor had just refilled this new bottle, so I thought it best to use the new one.
Could Dr. Quack have made a mistake and filled the new bottle with the wrong pills?
Well, I don't know. It's possible. Dr. Quack is kind of forgetful at times.
How critical was it for Edna to take her pills? Was her condition serious?
It was very serious. It was critical that she take her pills, and that is why her daughter wanted me to make sure she took her pills every morning.
Thank you. No other questions. Now, Mrs. Bergman,
Yes.
Edna was a key contributor to your theater productions,
Yes.
but recently she had stopped donating. Do you know why she stopped?
Not exactly. I think it had something to do with one of the productions that we put on, and her granddaughter wanted to put it on her website. And we said no.
So when you visited Edna, you were trying to convince her to resume donating to the theater again.
That's correct. I knew she had left money in her will to set up an endowment for the theater, but that would not be available until after her death. And the theater was in critical needs of funds now.
So you were not disappointed to learn that Edna had passed away.
Of course I was disappointed, but she was old and she didn't have long to live anyway.
We noted that when you visited Edna, you gave her a piece of chocolate. When you left, you took the box with the remaining chocolates with you. Why didn't you leave the box of chocolates? Were those chocolates poisoned?
Of course not. Of course not. I knew Edna liked chocolate, but I didn't know if it was good for her health. And so I didn't want to leave the rest of the box when I took them.
No other questions?
Thank you. I'd like to speak with Mayor Chad. We understand that Edna was not supporting you for re-election. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Edna carried a lot of weight in this town, and the fact that she was supporting your opponent was a big problem for you, was it not?
Yes, it was, but I went over to try to resolve some of our problems. She wouldn't give me the time of day, not even to listen to me, or to change her mind. So I just left because there was nothing else I can do. She did not want to give up on that silly botanical garden and all the flowers.
So the fact that Edna died probably increased your chances of being reelected.
Well, it could have, but I did not kill her.
No other questions right now, Mayor. Do you think?
Ladies and gentlemen, my colleague and I would like now to tell you who was responsible for Edna's murder and why.
After reviewing all of the evidence, we have determined that the murderer is Daisy, the neighbor.
Oh, my God! Kill my mother! I have nothing to do with that. Kill my mother! I had nothing to do with it. You knew if Edna was dead, you would finally get the house and the garden you have wanted for so long.
Well, I admit I wanted the house and garden, but I loved Edna, and I didn't kill her. And anyway, how would I know that her daughter would even let me have the house and garden? She might have wanted it for herself.
You knew that Edna's new will left the house and garden to Mason, her son-in-law.
What? How would I know that?
Because Mason told you.
It's not a secret.
Why would he tell me?
There was a reason why there were so many pictures of you and the son-in-law together in his daughter's website. Because the two of you were having an affair.
What? An affair? That's ridiculous.
What?
Mason told you that the new will left the house and garden to him, and the two of you agreed that after Edna's death, you two would marry. He would divorce Clarice, who admittedly is a difficult woman to live with. The two of you would marry, and then you would have your property and all of Edna's property too.
That's a lie. That's a lie. I love my wife. I would never divorce Claudia. Clarice, I would never divorce Clarice. And I had absolutely nothing to do with Edna's murder.
And I would never marry him. All he ever does is play golf. And my God, he's a lawyer.
As we all know, Edna loved flowers and was always competing with you for the most exotic ones you could find. And you said earlier that you put a flower in Edna's vase the morning of her death.
Yeah, I put a flower in his vase. What's wrong with that?
Well, Daisy, we had the flowers on Edna's table analyzed. And the analysis determined that one of those flowers is a rare flower called nightshade. Its scientific name is Africanus fragrantulus belarus. It is extremely poisonous when smelled.
I put the flower in the vase, but I didn't know it was poisonous.
This flower is only found in a rare part of South Africa. The same part of Africa that you visited last year. We had a botanist check your garden, and we found that this flower growing there was so rare and poisonous. Would you care to smell it?
No, take it away. I don't want to smell it. Oh, okay, look, I admit, I put the flower in the vase, and
Be quiet! Be quiet! Don't say anything. They can't prove any of this.
I didn't have anything to do with it. It was him. He said that if we murdered Edna, he would divorce his wife and marry me, and we would live on the rental property. And when I told him about the poisonous flower, he said it would be the perfect crime and we would never be caught.
And it would have been the perfect crime if you had waited until Edna signed the new will before putting the flower in your face.
Well, how was I supposed to know she didn't sign the will? That was what you were supposed to do when you talked to her.
Well, I didn't have time. I had a golf game to get to.
You and your golf game. I got a lawyer, but not him.
I can't believe this. You were going to divorce? He was going to divorce me after all these years of supporting you.
Can you blame me?
I knew something was going on. That's why there were so many pictures on my website. The two of you were always in the garden, and then you were in her shed. And I knew when you were in that shed, and it was a rockin', not to go a knockin'.
Sergeant Pepper, let's take them away.
Take us up, I'm afraid.
Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
Right this
Tell it to the judge.
Wait till my followers see this. I'm going to be famous!
Everybody, your stage crew. Sue and Wally and Vic. The family, Helen and Brenda. The employees, David and Janet, Colleen, Ralph and John. And the community Liberty, Beth and Bobby, Mary and Diane, and our very lively corpse, Lee. The dastardly villains, Richard and Nancy. Our super sleuths, John and Nancy. Our amazing assistant director, Helen. And the producer and script editor extraordinaire, Richard.
Our indomitable director, who Shirley Dean, who we could never have done without her leadership.
Okay, now for the whodunit contest. If you voted for either the son-in-law or the neighbor, then you have been put in the bowl for drawing, and you'll notice there's only 2 tickets in there.
It was so odd.
So, Lee, who was the most angelic person on the stage and got the least votes?
There were two. The nurse and the community theater person got no votes.
Whoa! And, okay, who was the shadiest character and got the most votes?
One was far and away the shadiest, who didn't do it, the gardener.
Okay, so let's draw the ticket. So the ticket number is 6101969.
Wow.
Who's got that? Yay! Okay, we've got this wonderful exotic flower for you. I've forgotten the name, John.
Africanus fragrantilus.
Do you want to smell it? Just kidding, it's an orchid.